Can you feel it? Every few weeks, the same shockwave hits your feed. Prince Harry stripped of his titles, a mystery tax bomb, King Charles signing off while Parliament moves in. It sounds cinematic because it is, just not in the way the headlines suggest. Tonight, we're pulling this story apart the way it plays out behind the scenes, what the law actually allows, what really happened with Archewell, and why a rumor can outrun reality by a mile. If you've ever wondered how a claim goes from one creator's upload to everyone's talking about it, this is your map, names, dates, and receipts included. And by the end, you'll know exactly what would have to happen for those titles to change for real, and why that keeps sounding closer than it actually is. It started the way these things always start. One bold thumbnail, one louder caption, and a claim that Prince Harry had been stripped of everything. Within hours, the same script echoed across feeds. King Charles approved it, Parliament backed it, and HMRC dropped a deadline. The numbers spiked, comments raged, and Harry's name sat at the center of a digital storm that felt bigger than any official bulletin. From there, the narrative wrote itself. If King Charles signed off, then surely Parliament must have moved. If Parliament moved, then Harry must be paying. If Harry was paying, then perhaps Meghan was already planning a brand pivot. Each creator added one more layer, one more confident phrase, until the rumor sounded like record. The cycle fed on speed, not sources, and Prince Harry became the headline that kept refreshing. Why does it travel so fast? Because the story is perfectly cast. A father, King Charles, versus a son, Harry. The institution, Parliament, versus the rebel. The money, HMRC, versus the mystique. Viewers don't just watch, they pick a side. And when people pick a side, they share. Every share sharpens the edges, and every edge makes the next version feel confirmed. But here's the break in the music. Viral doesn't mean verified. The question isn't how loud the claim got. It's what the rulebook actually says. And that's where this story starts to change. Because if titles were truly on the line, the path is narrow, formal, and very public. Here's the part most videos skip. Titles aren't a light switch. Prince Harry holds a peerage, the Duke of Sussex, which sits in a different box from courtesy styles like HRH. Styles can be set aside in practice, but a peerage is a legal creation. Changing it isn't a palace memo, it's a process. That's why you haven't seen a midnight press release ending anything. If it were to happen, it would be formal, traceable, and impossible to hide. So where does King Charles fit? The king can shape how the family presents itself. Who works, who represents, who uses certain styles, but actually removing a peerage is another league. That's where Parliament would need to step in. Not a speech, not a panel debate, an actual legislative route. Think, draft text, stages, votes, scrutiny. It's slow by design, and that slowness is the tell. If you don't see the machinery moving in public, the switch hasn't been flipped. What about a workaround? Some clever mechanism to do it quietly? Not really. Peerages leave paper trails. If the Duke of Sussex title changed status, the record would change too. And every reporter in London would see it within minutes. That's why confident whispers keep colliding with silence. The rumor loves shadows, the law hates them. And then there's the style question. HRH was set aside for Harry and Meghan in a working sense years ago, which makes for easy confusion now. But setting aside usage isn't the same as erasing a legal title. The two get blended in commentary because it sounds neat. The reality is messier, and that messiness is your best lie detector. If you've heard that Parliament moved against Prince Harry, it likely came from a chain of headlines built on far less than a bill. A backbench comment in a radio hit becomes pressure grows. A private member's idea becomes crackdown begins. By the time it hits your feed, someone should consider has morphed into King Charles and Parliament have acted. The phrasing shifts by inches, but the meaning jumps a mile. Inside Westminster, real change leaves footprints. Published text, readings in the Commons or Lords, committee scrutiny, amendments, votes. If Harry's Duke of Sussex peerage were truly under threat, the paper trail would be public, the timetable trackable, and the debates quotable. Instead, most updates trace back to opinion columns, TV panels, or petitions that express a mood, useful for clicks, useless as law. Why does it stall? Because political oxygen is scarce. Leaders focus on budgets, services, and international issues. Symbolic fights are expensive in time and backlash. Even MPs who dislike how Harry handled his exit know the bar for rewriting title rules is high. So the cycle resets. A fiery monologue, a viral clip, a headline that outruns the facts, then silence, because nothing formal advanced. That silence is the tell. When the story needs noise to feel alive, it's probably running on vibes, not votes. And while that keeps Prince Harry, Parliament, and King Charles in the conversation, it also sets up the next pivot point, the one place where paperwork did make headlines, Archewell. When the narrative needed a receipt, it found one. Archewell briefly landed on a government list as delinquent. That word did the heavy lifting. Overnight, clips framed it as proof that Prince Harry and Meghan were slipping. In reality, it was an administrative snag. Filing and payment timing, mundane but loud on paper. The label vanished after the paperwork caught up, but the screenshot lived on. For rumor cycles, a screenshot beats a correction every time. Why did it matter? Because money questions stick to public figures like Velcro. When Harry and Meghan left, critics framed every check and charity post as branding. So when Archewell hiccuped, the conclusion felt pre-written. See? The house isn't in order. The calmer version, forms processed late, fees reconciled, doesn't trend. The spicier version, trouble behind the scenes, does. Still, the moment changed the conversation. It taught commentators how to turn small compliance dots into big picture claims. It also taught Harry and Meghan something. Even a routine correction arrives too late in a story moving this fast. That's why you now see tighter language, faster updates, and fewer assumptions in official notes. The couple learned that in this arena, tidy books aren't enough. You need tidy optics, and that folds back into the larger theme. If Archewell can become a headline off a filing lag, imagine what a real titles move would look like. It wouldn't whisper, it would roar across registries, committees, and front pages. Until that roar appears, the loudest thing in the room is still the echo of a viral claim. Strip the noise away and a simpler question sits underneath. Does Prince Harry sell because of the work or because of the name? In media, it's rarely either or. The name opens doors. The work decides who gets to stay. That's why conversations about Prince Harry versus just Harry get so heated. People aren't arguing about one man. They're arguing about how star power is made. Look at how platforms behave. Netflix buys stories with built-in audiences. Publishers chase names that guarantee day one attention. Speaking agencies package a narrative they can pitch in a sentence. In each case, the royal mystique helps, but it's not magic. If the content doesn't land, the audience moves on. Fast. We saw that with the Spotify era. A splashy start, big expectations, then recalibration. The same marketplace that rewards a headline also punishes a hollow follow-up. For Harry and Meghan, that cuts both ways. The crown connection raises the floor. Curiosity ensures a first look. But sustained interest has to be earned with substance, new angles, credible access, real outcomes. When the work resonates, the Prince Harry label looks like a credential. When it doesn't, the label looks like packaging. That's why critics and fans talk past each other. One side sees a title, the other side checks the scoreboard. And this is where the rumor treadmill finds traction. If people think the brand's gravity is the title, then every whisper about titles stripped sounds like a meteor headed for the business model. It's tidy, it's dramatic, it's also incomplete, because even without a legal twist, the perception of value rises and falls every quarter, based on projects, reception, and relevance. Titles don't decide that, audiences do. Ask 10 headlines how the British public feels about Prince Harry, and you'll get 12 answers. Reader polls explode with votes because they're frictionless. One tap, instant verdict, big font. But those aren't the same as nationally weighted surveys. They measure who shows up, not what the whole country thinks. When a story runs hot, the most motivated voices flood the poll, and the result becomes a mirror of momentum, not a map of opinion. That gap matters because it's where narratives take off. If a tabloid slider shows 90% say strip the titles, the screenshot becomes the story. Suddenly, Harry looks isolated, and King Charles looks emboldened. But in the world of serious polling, questions get worded carefully, samples get balanced, and margins of error get disclosed. Those numbers move slowly, sometimes annoyingly so, and slow data rarely wins the click war. So what do we actually know? Sentiment toward Harry has been volatile since the exit, softening with positive appearances and souring with fresh controversy. It's more Tide than Cliff. Meanwhile, interest remains high. Even critics still click, which keeps the topic marketable. That's why creators keep returning to it. Outrage and curiosity are both forms of attention, and attention pays the algorithm's bills. Here's the twist. Vibes can influence outcomes even when stats don't change. If producers believe the audience has turned, they invest differently. If readers think everyone wants action, they share more aggressively. Perception becomes pressure, pressure becomes pitch, and the cycle spins again. Harry at the center, King Charles in the frame, and Parliament in the chorus line. Step off the rumor treadmill and look at the week to week. Prince Harry keeps anchoring his public work around mental health and veterans. Steady beats, familiar stages, predictable partners. That rhythm matters. When a narrative says collapse, but the calendar shows commitments, the dissonance is loud. Appearances might be fewer or tighter, but they're curated, and curation is a strategy. Meghan moves differently. Her play is brand architecture, controlled rollouts, selective interviews, and projects that frame her as a builder rather than a guest star. When the chatter flares up, she doesn't chase it, she edits it out. That restraint reads calculated to critics and disciplined to fans. But either way, it keeps her center of gravity intact. In an ecosystem that rewards noise, choosing silence is its own statement. Together, they still leverage the lanes that fit. Mental health conversations for Harry, women's leadership and media ventures for Meghan. Smaller rooms, sharper messages, fewer promises. If you chart it, you see a pattern. Fewer splashy headlines, more program-based touchpoints. That doesn't kill the title's storyline, it just starves it of fresh oxygen. And that's the point. Real calendars beat rumor clocks. If Parliament had truly moved, their bookings would reflect crisis management, not program cadence. If King Charles had signed a seismic change, you'd see it echoed across schedules, statements, and sponsors. You don't bury an earthquake, you broadcast it. These stories stick because they solve a puzzle in one swipe. Prince Harry loses titles, explains every misstep in a sentence. King Charles signs off, adds authority. Parliament moves, adds inevitability. It's clean, dramatic, and most of the time, wrong. Real life is messy. Real law is slower. And messy, slow processes don't travel as fast as a one-line verdict. There's also the cast. You know the names before the plot. Harry, Meghan, Charles, Parliament. Familiar characters make rumors feel credible. If you already believe Harry is reckless, a headline about a tax bomb feels plausible. If you already see Meghan as calculating, a silent distance narrative feels inevitable. Confirmation bias does the rest. The rumor fits your file, so you don't ask for receipts. So here's your 30-second checklist, the one I use before I believe a single pixel. Source trail. Is there an official notice, court filing, or parliamentary paper? No document, no deal. Multiple outlets. Do at least 2 reputable organizations match the details? Not react, match. Direct quotes. Are quotes linked to named officials, not a palace insider? Mechanism check. If it's about titles, does it identify the legal route? Parliament, not vibes. Date and scope. Does it say when it happened and exactly what changed on the record? Run that list, and most viral claims fold in under a minute, no matter how many times Harry, Meghan, or King Charles are name-dropped to sell the drama. And that's the paradox. The more often a rumor is repeated, the truer it feels, until a single public record knocks it flat. When the next title shockwave hits your feed, give it 30 seconds with the checklist. If it survives, it's news. If it doesn't, it's a plot twist looking for a script. By now, the pattern is clear. The loud version of the story says Prince Harry lost everything. King Charles signed the order, and Parliament sealed it with a stamp. The real version says titles are legal constructions with public footprints, and those footprints aren't there. The loud version needs a villain, a hero, and a countdown clock. The real version needs paperwork, procedure, and time. Rumor sells the crescendo. The record shows the rests between the notes. That doesn't mean the narrative is empty. It means the pressure points sit somewhere else. Brand value, audience patience, and the difference between curiosity and loyalty. Harry can still command attention, but attention isn't the same as affection, and affection isn't the same as trust. Meghan can still shape a lane, but a lane is only as strong as the projects that drive through it. King Charles remains the symbolic center of the institution, yet even a monarch moves inside a system that demands visibility when big things happen. And Parliament? When it truly acts, it publishes, so you won't need a rumor to find it. If there's a takeaway, it's this. In stories like this, perception is the fuel and process is the brake. Viral claims run hot because they feel inevitable. Legal reality runs slow because it's built to resist heat. When those two lines cross, only one leaves a trace you can verify. Until that trace exists, what you're hearing isn't a verdict, it's a vibe. So the next time your feed erupts, Harry stripped, Meghan silent, Charles approves, Parliament moves. Treat it like a pop quiz. Ask for the document, the date, the mechanism, the quotes. If the answers aren't there, the story isn't there yet. And if the answers are there, you won't need anyone's opinion to know it's real. You'll see it in black and white.